This story is fictional. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental. They laughed while I went through being treated like an ATM, only contacted to pay bills. 12 hours later, an HR advisor sent me transfer of ownership receipts. It started the way it always did, with my phone buzzing at a bad time and my stomach doing that small, tired drop, like it already knew what the message would say. "Hey, Mia," my mom, Scarlett Garcia, texted like we were close, like we talked about anything other than money. "Need you to handle something real quick." I stared at the words from the break room at work, a paper cup of burnt coffee warming my palm. My job title, internal investigator, was printed on my badge right under my name, Amelia Johnson. People at work called me thorough like it was a compliment and a warning at the same time. My family called me when the lights were about to be shut off. I didn't answer right away. I waited. I wanted to see if she'd say please without prompting. She didn't. A second text came through. "It's the property tax, due today. If it lapses, it'll be a mess. You know how your brother gets." My brother, Grace Rodriguez, the golden child, the star younger brother with the big smile and the even bigger ability to act like nothing was ever his fault. I could practically hear Scarlett's voice in the text, sing-song, urgent, offended on his behalf. Like the universe owed Grace softness, and I owed the universe compliance. I typed, "How much?" and watched the cursor blink, like it was counting down my dignity. $3,842.07, she replied instantly. "Send it now." "No, I'll pay you back. No, thank you." Not even the little heart emoji she used with other people. Just a number. I sent the money anyway because some habits feel like love until you look at them under fluorescent light and realize they're just fear. I hit confirm, and my banking app flashed the little check mark like a receipt from a vending machine. And then my phone buzzed again. This time, not from my mother. It was an email from someone named Elliot Park, HR advisor, and the subject line made my throat go tight. "Transfer of ownership. Please read tonight." I clicked it with my heart already sprinting, and that's when I saw the attachments. PDFs, timestamps, names, and my family story. Every excuse, every sob, every "we're just trying to keep the house" started to crack like thin ice under my feet. Because the first document had a signature at the bottom that looked disturbingly familiar, and it wasn't Scarlett's, it was mine. For a few seconds, my brain tried to protect me by insisting it was a coincidence. My name was common. My handwriting could be mimicked. PDFs could be altered. Then my training kicked in, muscle memory from years of chasing fraud inside corporate hallways, and my denial snapped clean in half. I opened the file again, zoomed in. The signature had the same slight tilt I'd had since 7th grade, the same lazy loop on the J, in Johnson like I never cared enough to finish it properly. My hands went cold. Elliot's email was short, almost apologetic. "Amelia, I wasn't sure if I should reach out. I know this is personal, but the documentation that came across my desk didn't match what I've been told, and I couldn't ignore it. Please call me when you can. I'm available tonight. Elliot Park." I didn't know an Elliot Park. Not personally, but I did know that HR advisors were like the quiet plumbing of organizations, ignored until something exploded. I checked the sender details. It wasn't spam. The domain belonged to a local firm, Clearbridge Advisory, the kind of company businesses hired when they wanted structure without admitting they needed intervention. My family didn't hire firms like that. My family barely hired accountants. We hired cousins and friends of friends, and people Scarlett could charm into flexible payment terms. A memory rose up. Scarlett at the kitchen table when I was 16, talking through bills with a pen between her teeth, sighing like the weight of responsibility was jewelry only she could wear. "Grace needs new headshots," she'd said then, like it was as necessary as rent. "If he doesn't keep up, people forget you." I'd been sitting right there, invisible, my own school picture day forms unsigned in my backpack. As adults, the invisibility just changed shape. It became a group thread where nobody responded when I spoke, but everybody reacted when I offered money. It became holiday dinners where Scarlett introduced Grace like he was the main event. "This is my son," she'd say, beaming. "You've probably seen him online." And me? "This is Amelia," she'd add, an afterthought. "She's good with details." Good with details, like I was a filing cabinet she kept in the basement. Now, staring at a document with my signature on it, I realized my family didn't just treat me like an ATM. They treated me like a tool, a resource, a name they could use. I forwarded Elliot's email to my personal address, then downloaded every attachment to a folder labeled evidence, because of course I did. Then I closed my office door, looked at my reflection in the dark monitor, and whispered the question I'd been avoiding for years. What did you do to me? And right then, my phone lit up with a call from Scarlett, like she could feel my spine straightening from miles away. I let it ring out. Scarlett called again, then Grace, then the family group chat, Rodriguez Garcia fam, started chiming like a slot machine. Grace, who good? Amelia, answer your phone. Call your mother. Grace, we need you. 3 words that never meant I was loved, only that I was useful. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I'd either scream or fold. Instead, I opened the PDF again and forced myself to read it like it was any other case file. Like the people involved were strangers and not the reason my stomach always tightened around family gatherings. The document was titled Quitclaim Deed. Property address, my childhood home. The small stucco house in Mesa where Scarlett used to tape Grace's audition flyers to the fridge and tell me to keep my homework out of sight when important people came over. Grantor, Amelia Johnson. Grantee Scarlett Garcia, recorded 6 months ago. I read the date 3 times. 6 months ago, I was in Denver for a work conference, eating room service salad and pretending my loneliness was independence. I wasn't even in Arizona. The second PDF was a transfer of ownership receipt from the county recorder's office, time-stamped, itemized, official. My chest ached. Receipts didn't age. People did. I clicked the third attachment, a notary log extract. There it was again, my name, my alleged presence, a notary stamp, and a line for ID verified. The ID number was partially redacted, but the last 4 digits were clear, and they matched my driver's license. I shoved my chair back and stood up too fast. My knees went soft. Someone had used my identity. Someone had walked into a notary office and claimed to be me. Or worse, someone had convinced me to sign something without telling me what it was. My mind sprinted through possibilities. Papers slipped into holiday cards, documents mixed into just sign this so I can handle insurance, signatures copied from old school forms. I thought of Scarlett's habit of keeping everything. Birth certificates, social security cards, my first passport for safekeeping. I'd never fought her on it because fighting her required energy I'd learned to save for survival. I sat back down, breathing through my mouth like I was trying not to drown. My work phone pinged, a meeting reminder, a calendar invite, the world insisting it was normal. I opened my notes app and started listing every payment I'd made to my family in the last 5 years. Utilities, loans, emergency medical bills, rent just for a month, wedding deposits, Grace's manager fee. It wasn't revenge, it was reality. Justice starts with what you can prove. Then another email came in from Elliot. If you're available, I can meet tonight. I have additional documentation I didn't feel comfortable emailing. I stared at the words, additional documentation. My throat went dry. Because if those PDFs were just what he felt comfortable sending, what was he afraid to put in writing? I met Elliot Park at a coffee shop that stayed open too late for people who needed to feel like they still had control. He was already there, seated in the corner with his back to the wall. The kind of posture you adopt when you've spent your life being overlooked and don't trust that safety is automatic. He stood when he saw me, hesitated, then offered a hand. Amelia Johnson? He asked softly, like my name belonged to evidence. That's me, I said and shook his hand. His palm was warm, his grip careful. I'm Elliot, he said. I'm sorry. I know this is a lot. He slid a folder across the table. Not a fancy leather one, a cheap, slightly worn accordion file with tabbed sections, the kind people used when they couldn't afford to lose anything. Why are you involved with my family? I asked. Elliot let out a breath that looked like he'd been holding it all day. Your mother hired my firm. Clearbridge, Shaft, she said she needed HR compliance help for the family business. The family business? My laugh came out sharp. We don't have a business. We have chaos. He gave a small, almost smile like he understood. Garcia Catering LLC, registered 2 years ago. My face went still. That's not. It is, he said gently. It's under her name. Grace is listed as brand ambassador. Of course he was. Elliot opened the folder and pulled out a printed document, sliding it toward me. My eyes landed on the heading, Ownership Structure. Updated. I scanned. My stomach dropped. There it was again. Amelia Johnson, 40%, transfer pending. I blinked hard. Why would I be? Because, Elliot said, lowering his voice, your mother used your name. She told my firm you were an investor. I never invested. I know, he said. That's why I reached out. I stared at him, trying to understand what kind of person breaks protocol for a stranger. And you're telling me because... What? Because it's wrong? Elliot's jaw tightened. Because I'm tired of watching people like your mother rewrite reality. I've been the guy in the corner with the spreadsheets, the one they don't look at, the one they call kid, even though I'm 35. He tapped the folder. But paperwork doesn't care who gets invited to family dinner. Paperwork tells the truth. My throat burned. He slid out another sheet, this one a list of transactions itemized. Vendor payments, deposit receipts, transfers between accounts, and there, highlighted in yellow, was a line that made my vision blur. Source, Amelia Johnson, ACH transfer, $12,500, wedding venue deposit. I hadn't paid that. I hadn't even known Grace booked a venue. Elliot looked at me like he could see the moment my invisible life became visible in the worst way. I don't think they just used your name, he said. I think they built their whole safety net on it. I gripped the edge of the table until my fingers hurt. Tell me everything, I said. Elliot nodded, and then he pulled out the last document, one I hadn't seen yet, and my breath caught as I read the title. Second mortgage, or collateral, 11127 W Juniper Lane. My childhood home, my mother's everything, and somehow my responsibility. On the drive home, I kept the radio off. Silence made space for the truth, and the truth was loud. I parked in my apartment lot, sat in my car, and opened Elliot's folder again under the dome light like I was back in college cramming for a final. Second mortgage, recorded 3 months ago. Borrower, Scarlett Garcia. Lender, a private financing company with a name that sounded friendly and wasn't, Suncrest Holdings. Collateral, my childhood home. Amount, $180,000. Purpose, business expansion. My mind played it back like a documentary. Garcia Catering, Grace as brand ambassador. His online food tours, the new van they'd posted on Instagram, the matching aprons with the embroidered logo. All those shiny things had been funded by something. Not hard work, not planning. Me, or more accurately, the identity of me. Because the second mortgage paperwork included a notarized affidavit stating Scarlett had the consent of all parties with ownership stake. And there was my signature again. I leaned my forehead against my steering wheel and felt a laugh crawl up my throat like a sob. All those times she'd texted me just for a month, just until the next booking, just until Grace gets paid. She hadn't been borrowing. She'd been extracting. I went upstairs, kicked off my shoes, and spread the documents across my kitchen table. Then I did what I always did when I couldn't control my feelings. I controlled the facts. I pulled up my banking history and created a spreadsheet, columns for date, amount, method, note, and screenshot link. I included everything. The $300 electric bill I paid when Scarlett claimed her card was acting weird. The $900 car repair that turned into a set of new tires on Grace's sports coupe. The $2,000 attorney retainer that mysteriously aligned with Scarlett, filing paperwork for Garcia Catering. The smaller stuff too. The "can you cover groceries this week" that came with photos of organic snack hauls. I didn't cherry pick, I didn't dramatize, I didn't exaggerate. Receipts don't need emotion, they're devastating on their own. Around midnight, my phone buzzed again, a text from Grace. Grace, hey sis, don't ignore mom, she's freaking out. Wedding stuff is stressful, wedding. My eyes narrowed. What wedding stuff? Then Scarlett texted. Scarlett, we need you tomorrow. In person. Don't make this harder. My skin prickled. They wanted me in because in person they could perform. In person they could cry and hug and guilt and say things like family is family with their hands on my shoulders like anchors. But now I had paperwork. And paperwork doesn't flinch. I replied, tomorrow doesn't work. Tell me what you need in writing. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then her response came through, and it wasn't a request. It was a threat dressed in a mother's voice. Scarlett, if you don't come, I'll tell everyone what you did to us. I stared at the screen, my pulse loud in my ears. What I did to them. The audacity was so familiar it almost felt like home. I set my phone down carefully, like it might bite, and whispered into my empty kitchen, you have no idea what I'm about to do. Then I opened a new folder on my laptop and named it Wedding, because I suddenly understood exactly where this was headed. And I knew if they planned to steal the spotlight at that wedding, I was going to bring my own lighting. The next morning, I called Elliot from my office before my first case review. He answered on the second ring. "Amelia, tell me about the wedding," I said. A pause. "You didn't know?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm guessing I wasn't invited because I'm not aesthetic." Elliot exhaled. "Grace is getting married in 3 weeks to Ava Reynolds." I recognized the name. Ava was the woman Grace posted with, blonde, camera-ready, always smiling like she'd never had to decide between groceries and gas. "She's an influencer," Elliot added carefully. "Lifestyle content. Their engagement got a lot of attention." "Of course it did. And my mother hired you because of HR compliance?" I asked, the words tasting bitter. "She said the business was expanding," he said. "She wanted employee handbooks, vendor contracts, a clean structure. She also wanted to formalize ownership, so she could use my name." "Yes," Elliot said. No hesitation now. "But Amelia, there's something else." My fingers tightened around my pen. "What?" "She's been telling people you offered to help," he said, "that you wanted to make up for being absent by covering wedding expenses." My stomach turned. "I didn't." "I know," he said, "but she's already built the narrative. Grace believes it. Ava believes it. Extended family believes it. The invisible one, only visible when she could be blamed or billed." I swallowed hard. "And the transfer receipts, how did you find them?" Elliot hesitated, like he was choosing between professional caution and personal truth. "I was assigned to organize their documentation," he said. "They kept handing me piles of papers with sticky notes. Urgent, sign, file." I asked for a cap table, a ledger, a clear list of owners. Scarlett laughed and said, "Oh, honey, we don't do all that." I could picture it. Scarlett's laugh was always half charm, half warning. Elliot continued, "So I did it myself. I pulled public records, I cross-referenced dates, and that's when I saw your name on the deed transfer." "You went to the county recorder," I said. "Yes," he admitted, "because I didn't trust what they were telling me." Twist number 2, arriving like a quiet hand on my shoulder. The overlooked worker was the one who uncovered the receipts. Not a lawyer, not a hero, just a man with a folder and a conscience who got tired of being treated like furniture. "Elliot," I said, my voice low, "why risk your job for this?" He was silent for a beat. Then, "Because I've watched people get away with this kind of thing my whole life, and because I think you deserve to know the truth about your own name." The emotion in my throat surprised me. I blinked hard. "Okay," I said, forcing steadiness. "What else do you have?" "I have more documentation," he said. "Some of it I only have because I was copied on emails. Scarlett isn't careful." "Send what you can," I said, "and tell me where the wedding is." Elliot gave me the venue name, Desert Palms Country Club, and something in my chest went tight, because I knew that place. 10 years ago, that's where Scarlett hosted a celebration dinner for Grace after he landed a local commercial. She'd made me stand up in front of everyone and read a speech she wrote for me, thanking Grace for inspiring our family. I'd been 19, cheeks burning, voice shaking, while people clapped for him and laughed when I mispronounced a word. Public humiliation served with dessert. And now the wedding was at the exact same country club, like Scarlett was looping back to a favorite stage. I stared out the window of my office at the parking lot, heat shimmering off windshields. "She's doing it on purpose," I whispered. "What?" Elliot asked. "The location," I said. "She picked it because it's where she broke me last time." Elliot didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. "Then maybe it's where you get your voice back." My phone lit up again, as if to confirm it. A calendar invite from Scarlett. Subject: family meeting, mandatory. And attached was a PDF titled Amelia Johnson, Agreement. My heart kicked hard. Agreement? I clicked it, and the first line made my blood run cold. This document confirms Amelia Johnson's voluntary transfer of all rights and interests. I printed the agreement and brought it to my lunch break like it was radioactive. It was written in that sloppy, overconfident language people use when they think no one will challenge them. The formatting was inconsistent, the legal terms copied and pasted from somewhere, and the signature line already had a scanned version of my name faintly watermarked beneath it, like they'd pre-signed for me. There was even a little note in the margins, "Signed by Friday to avoid complications." Complications. I could practically hear Scarlett saying it with a smile. I forwarded the PDF to Elliot, then opened my personal email and searched my inbox for anything from Desert Palms, Ava Reynolds, or wedding. Nothing. No invite. No save the date. Scarlett was building a wedding narrative that didn't include me until it needed money or a scapegoat. I sat at my desk after lunch, staring at my investigation board. Photos of vendors, transaction dates, property records, and screenshot after screenshot of my family's text messages asking for help. By 3 p.m., I had enough to make my stomach hurt. By 4 p.m., I had a plan. Not a violent plan, not a ruin your life plan, a boundary plan. Because the truth is, I didn't want to destroy them. I wanted to stop bleeding. I wanted them to stop reaching into my pockets like they lived there. At 5:12 p.m., Grace called me from a number I knew by heart. I answered because I needed to hear his voice with this new information in my head. I needed to know if he was complicit or just spoiled. "Hey," he said, bright, practiced. "Finally, Mom's been losing it. I saw the agreement," I said, a beat of silence. Then his voice shifted, still warm but more careful. "What agreement?" "Don't play dumb," I said softly. "It's the one with my name on it." He laughed, an airy little sound like I'd made a joke. "Amelia, you're reading into stuff. Mom's just trying to organize paperwork. You know she's not good with details." I almost smiled at the irony. Almost. "Grace," I said, "did you know the house has a second mortgage?" Silence again, but heavier this time. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "I'm talking about Juniper Lane," I said. "I'm talking about $180,000. I'm talking about my signature on a quitclaim deed that I didn't sign." His breathing changed. I heard him move like he'd walked away from someone so he could control the conversation. "You're being dramatic," he said, quieter. "Mom said you were helping. She said you wanted to." "To what?" I asked. "To buy you a wedding? To sign away a house I don't even live in?" He sighed like I was exhausting him. "I didn't ask for this stress. Ava's already overwhelmed." Of course she was. The golden child's needs were always the center of the universe. "Grace," I said, voice steady, "I'm not sending another dollar. Not for the house, not for the wedding, not for anything." His tone sharpened. "So you're just going to let Mom drown?" "I'm going to let Mom face the consequences of her choices," I said. "She's your mother," he snapped. "And you're my brother," I said. "But somehow that never meant you protected me." The line went quiet. Then Grace spoke, and his voice had something new in it, something colder. "If you do this," he said, "if you make a scene, you'll ruin everything." I looked at my laptop screen where the county receipt glowed like a confession. "I'm not the one who forged my name," I said. Grace's voice dropped to a whisper. "Just come to the meeting. Mom wants to talk. We can fix it." Fix it. Like they could tape over fraud with family language. "I'll consider it," I lied, and as soon as we hung up, a new email arrived. From Desert Palms Country Club. Subject: final payment reminder, wedding event. I opened it, and there, under billing contact, was my name. Amelia Johnson. My hands went numb. Because it wasn't just that they used my identity, they'd made me responsible in places I hadn't even been invited to. And if I didn't act fast, the next complication wouldn't be emotional. It would be legal. That night, Elliot and I met again, this time in his office, after hours. Clearbridge Advisory was tucked into a strip of professional buildings that all smelled like carpet cleaner and quiet panic. Elliot led me into a conference room with a whiteboard and a small stack of binders labeled by year. He set down a laptop and turned it toward me. "I can show you something," he said, "but I need you to understand, once you see it, you can't unsee it." "I already can't unsee it," I said. He clicked a folder open and pulled up an email thread. Scarlett's name at the top, in bold, Grace copied, a vendor attached, and my personal email address listed as a secondary contact, an old one Scarlett still had access to, from when I was 20 and naive and thought sharing passwords was trust. The subject line made my chest tighten. "Amelia will cover deposit confirmed." Elliot scrolled slowly. The email chain showed Scarlett negotiating payment terms. A vendor asking for confirmation. Scarlett replying, "Amelia will handle it," like she was talking about a company credit card. Then Elliot clicked an attachment. A PDF receipt from my bank. Not mine. A doctored one. I could tell immediately, font mismatch, spacing off, metadata wrong. But to a vendor? To an overwhelmed bride? It would look real enough. Elliot leaned back in his chair. She's been doing this with multiple vendors, he said. Sending proof of payment? That isn't proof of payment. So they think I'm paying, I whispered. Yes, Elliot said. And when payment doesn't arrive, the blame will land on you. Scarlett's old trick. Build the stage, hand me the script, and then act shocked when I refuse to perform. I pressed my fingertips to my temple. What do you recommend? Elliot hesitated. Professionally, I'd advise you to contact an attorney. And personally, I asked. His eyes met mine. Personally, I think you should stop letting them isolate you. The reason they've gotten away with it is because everything happens in private. My mind went straight to the country club. The wedding. The planned spotlight steal. Scarlett loved an audience. She loved making me small in front of people. Justice through receipts requires witnesses. I swallowed. What else do you have? Elliot clicked another file. A screenshot of a system log. DocuSign activity. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up because the log showed an envelope sent, opened, and signed. Sent to Amelia Johnson, email address I'd stopped using years ago. Opened, 2:14 p.m. Signed, 2:16 p.m. IP address listed. Device type, iPhone, location, Phoenix, AZ. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to review a legal document and sign away rights. It was absurd. It was impossible. It was also exactly the kind of tiny detail that would collapse a lie. I stared at the log. My voice came out thin. I was in Denver that day. I know, Elliot said. You can prove it. A slow heat spread through my chest. Not rage exactly, but clarity, like a fog lifting. Can you get the full certificate? I asked. Elliot nodded. Yes, I can request it. Do it, I said. He watched me for a moment. Amelia, what are you planning? I looked at the file labeled wedding in my own mind, tight and bright and inevitable. I'm planning to stop being invisible, I said, and then my phone buzzed with a new message from Scarlett. A photo, an envelope, handwritten in big looping letters, Desert Palms Country Club, final notice. Under it, Scarlett wrote, if you don't pay this, you're not family. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Then I typed one sentence back, calm as a courtroom. Then send me everything you've ever claimed I owe, because I'm about to send you my receipts. And almost immediately, Scarlett replied with one word that felt like a slap. Good. The family meeting happened in Scarlett's living room. The one she decorated like a staged photo. Throw pillows nobody used. Framed pictures of Grace at different ages like he was a timeline of her success. I didn't want to go. Every instinct in me said, don't step into her theater. But I needed to see their faces. I needed to hear their version of the truth. I walked in carrying a plain tote bag. Inside it, printed receipts, my laptop, and a small voice recorder I was legally allowed to use because Arizona was a one-party consent state. Grace was already there, sprawled on the couch like he owned the air. Scarlett sat in her armchair, chin lifted, eyes sharp. Aunt Lila hovered near the kitchen, pretending to tidy while listening. Finally, Scarlett said, sit. I didn't sit. I stayed standing. Her eyes narrowed. Don't start with your attitude. My attitude? I asked, voice level. You forged my signature. Grace scoffed. Here we go. Scarlett's mouth tightened. No one forged anything. You signed what you signed. I wasn't in Arizona, I said. Scarlett leaned forward, hands clasped. Amelia, don't embarrass yourself. You've always been forgetful. Grace laughed under his breath like my memory was a cute flaw. I reached into my tote bag and pulled out a printed DocuSign log. I held it up like a mirror. Signed in 2 minutes, I said. On an iPhone, in Phoenix, at 2:16 p.m. on May 14th. Scarlett's eyes flickered. Just a flicker. Grace's face stayed smooth. So, I said, I was in Denver. I have airline records, hotel receipts, conference badge photos, and my phone location history. Scarlett's smile was thin and bright. You always have to make everything a trial. Because you always make everything a lie, I said. Aunt Lila gasped softly, like she'd been waiting for someone to finally say it out loud. Scarlett stood. You are not going to ruin Grace's wedding with your obsession. My pulse thudded. You already ruined it. You just haven't told him yet. Grace straightened. Tell me what, he demanded. Scarlett snapped. Grace, baby, don't listen. I want to hear, Grace said, and for the first time his golden child shine dimmed into something human, something scared. I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. The county recorder receipt, the second mortgage. The vendor emails listing me as billing contact. Grace's eyes scanned, and I watched his throat work as he swallowed. This isn't real, he said, voice cracking just enough to make my heart twist. Mom. Scarlett's jaw clenched. It's paperwork. It's nothing. It's just temporary. Grace looked at her like she'd grown sharp edges. You said Amelia offered. Scarlett's eyes snapped to me. You did offer. Don't do this, Amelia. She turned to Aunt Lila, desperate for backup. Tell her. Tell her she's always been jealous. Aunt Lila froze, caught between family loyalty and the documents in front of her. And in that split second, I saw it. Scarlett wasn't worried about losing money. She was worried about losing control of the story. I took a slow breath. I'm not jealous, I said. I'm done. Scarlett's face hardened. Then you're not coming to the wedding. Grace's head whipped toward me. Were you coming? I looked at my brother, the star, the favorite, and felt something settle in my chest like a final answer. I wasn't invited, I said. The silence that followed was loud enough to shake the throw pillows off the couch. And then Scarlett smiled, cold and precise. Then you won't mind, she said, if we tell everyone you stole from us. That was the moment something in me snapped, not into rage, but into certainty. Scarlett could accuse me of anything. She'd been doing it for years in smaller ways. She's too busy for family. She thinks she's better than us. She doesn't care. But she stole? That was escalation. That was legal. That was reputation. That was the kind of lie that could follow me into my job, into my future, into every room where my name mattered. I kept my voice calm. If you say that, I told Scarlett, I'll respond with evidence. Grace stood up. Mom, stop! Scarlett rounded on him like he'd betrayed her. Grace, you don't understand how she is. She keeps score. I almost laughed. No, Scarlett, I keep receipts. Scarlett flinched at her own first name coming from my mouth. I never called her Scarlett. I called her Mom, even when she didn't earn it. Now I did it on purpose. I want everything in writing, I said. Any claim you make about me, any amount you say I owe, email it, text it, put it on paper. Scarlett's lips curled. Why? So you can twist it like you twist everything? So you can't twist it, I corrected. Grace looked between us, breathing hard. Amelia, did you pay any of this? No, I said, meeting his eyes. I paid property taxes yesterday because she told me it was an emergency. That's the only thing I've paid recently. Scarlett threw up her hands. See? She admits it. She paid. She's involved. Grace stared at hers like that's not what that means. Scarlett stepped closer to me, lowering her voice like she was giving motherly advice. You want to play investigator? Fine, but you do it quietly. You don't ruin my son's wedding. You don't embarrass me at Desert Palms. Desert Palms. The stage. I felt the old humiliation rise in my throat, the memory of standing in that ballroom 10 years ago while Scarlett made me praise Grace like a sermon. I swallowed it down. You're right, I said. Scarlett's eyes brightened like she thought she'd won. I'm not going to ruin the wedding, I said. Grace exhaled, relieved. Scarlett smiled. Good. I reached into my tote bag again and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was a letter, short, plain, printed. I set it on her coffee table. What's that? She asked. A notice, I said. Effective immediately, you are no longer authorized to use my name, my email, or my personal information for any financial or legal transaction. Any further use will be treated as identity fraud and reported accordingly. Scarlett's smile faltered. Grace stared. Amelia, I kept my tone even. I'm also contacting the vendors to remove me as billing contact. If deposits aren't paid, they'll know exactly who promised them. Scarlett's face reddened. You wouldn't. I already did, I said. Elliot had drafted the language. I'd already sent the emails from my car before walking in. Scarlett's mouth opened, then closed, like she couldn't find a script for a daughter who didn't obey. You're trying to destroy us, she hissed. No, I said quietly. I'm trying to stop you from destroying me. Grace took a step toward me, his voice softer. Please, just come to the wedding. We can talk after. I looked at him and realized the truth. Grace wasn't the mastermind. He was the beneficiary. He was the product of Scarlett's obsession with appearances. But he was still responsible for what he allowed. I'll come, I said. Grace's eyes widened. Really? Yes, I said. I'll come, and I'll be quiet. Scarlett's shoulders loosened, satisfied. Then I added, still calm, but I won't be invisible. Scarlett stared at me like she finally saw a stranger wearing my face, and I walked out before she could rewrite the moment. In my car, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Ava. We need to talk before the wedding. Please. And suddenly, the spotlight wasn't just something Scarlett wanted to steal, it was something coming straight for me. Ava Reynolds met me at a bright little brunch place that served mimosas in glasses shaped like trophies. She wore a cream sweater and a wedding planning exhaustion that didn't quite hide the confidence of someone used to being believed. When I sat down, she didn't waste time. "Grace says you're upset," she said, pulling her phone out like it was a shield. "But Scarlett says you agreed to help. She showed me texts." My stomach tightened. "What texts?" Ava slid her phone across the table. Screenshots, cropped, out of context, carefully framed. One showed Scarlett asking, "Can you cover the deposit?" and me replying, "Okay." It was real, but it was from last year, when she'd asked me to cover a medical copay. Scarlett had renamed the conversation in her phone. She turned "okay" into a blank check. I looked at Ava. "She's manipulating you." Ava's jaw set. "That's a big accusation." "So is Amelia stole from us," I said. "But she's already warming up that one." Ava's eyes flickered. "Grace would never say that." "Grace repeats what Scarlett says," I replied. "It's different, but the result is the same." Ava leaned back, crossing her arms. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're about to marry into it," I thought. Instead I said, "Because I don't want to blindside you at your wedding. I want you to have the truth." Ava hesitated, then whispered, "Scarlett told me you hate me." I blinked. "I barely know you." "She said you were jealous because Grace finally has someone who understands him." I let out a slow breath. Scarlett always needed a villain. "I don't hate you," I said. "I'm tired, and I'm done being used." Ava stared at me for a long moment. "So what do you want?" The question made me swallow. What did I want? Not vengeance, not collapse, not blood. I wanted accountability. "I want my name off everything," I said, "and I want the lies to stop." Ava's gaze dropped to my hands. "Grace said you threatened to ruin the wedding." "I threatened to stop paying," I corrected. "If their wedding falls apart because the person who isn't invited won't finance it, that's not my sabotage." Ava looked away, blinking fast. "Scarlett said you're unstable." I almost laughed. The irony was painful. I reached into my bag and slid a printed receipt across the table. Desert Palms invoice with my name as billing contact. Then the county transfer receipt. Then the DocuSign log excerpt. Ava's face went still as she read. Her lips parted slightly. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It is," I said. Ava's hands shook just enough to make my chest tighten. "Grace doesn't know." "Maybe he doesn't," I said, "but he benefits." Ava swallowed. "What are you going to do at the wedding?" I held her gaze. "I'm going to let the truth exist in public, because private is where Scarlett wins." Ava's eyes widened. "You're going to humiliate her." "No," I said quietly. "She's going to humiliate herself. I'm just bringing receipts." Ava stared at the papers like they were a doorway she didn't want to walk through. Then she whispered, "Scarlett picked Desert Palms because she said it was family tradition." I tasted bitterness. Tradition, to Scarlett, was just repetition of control. Ava's voice trembled. "If I call her out, she'll spiral." I nodded. "She will." Ava's eyes lifted to mine, glossy and scared. "And if I don't, I'm marrying into a lie." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Ava pressed her lips together and slid the receipts back to me like they burned. "Send me copies," she said. "All of it." I nodded. "I will." As I stood to leave, Ava grabbed my wrist lightly. "Amelia," she said, voice low, "if this blows up at my wedding, promise me you'll protect Grace." I looked down at her hand on my wrist, soft, polite, desperate, and I realized the most dangerous part of Scarlett's story wasn't the money. It was that everyone kept asking me to protect the people who were hurting me. I gently pulled my wrist free. "I'll protect the truth," I said. And as I walked out, my phone buzzed with an alert from my bank, an attempted login from an unfamiliar device. Someone was still trying to use me. I froze in the parking lot, staring at the bank alert like it was a warning sign on a highway. Attempted login. New device. Location, Phoenix. My hands shook as I opened my banking app. Another notification popped up. Password reset requested. Then another. External transfer initiated, pending verification. My throat tightened so hard I could barely swallow. Scarlett wasn't just threatening. She was acting. I called my bank immediately, voice clipped, professional, my work voice, the one I used when I cornered vendors in interviews and they tried to charm their way out of fraud. The representative confirmed there had been multiple failed attempts to access my account. "Do you recognize the phone number ending in 4419? She asked. I didn't. But I knew who would. I locked everything down, changed passwords, turned on extra verification, placed a temporary freeze. Then I sat in my car and called Elliot. "They're trying to log into my bank," I said. Elliot's voice sharpened. "Right now?" "Right now." "Okay," he said, calm but fast. "Document the alerts, screenshot everything, then file an identity theft report." "I know," I said. "I do this for a living." "Not when it's your mother," he replied quietly. That landed like a stone in my chest, because he was right, my skills didn't erase my grief. I drove home with my jaw clenched and my mind racing, and when I got there, I found a FedEx envelope taped to my door. No return address, just my name. Inside was a single printed page, a spreadsheet, a list of amounts. At the bottom, in Scarlett's handwriting, total owed $47,320. My stomach flipped. It was a bill for raising me, for feeding me, for letting me live in her house as a child. Scarlett had always kept score. Now she was trying to invoice me for existing. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at her list. It was full of nonsense. School clothes, doctor visits, Grace's tutoring, shared benefit, family vacations, your portion. Shared benefit, like I'd benefited from being dragged along as a prop. I compared her list to mine, my spreadsheet of actual transfers, actual payments, actual receipts. Her number was a weapon. Mine was evidence. I opened my laptop and began drafting a letter. Simple, direct, no emotion. Scarlett, attached is an itemized record of all payments I have made on behalf of you and Grace Rodriguez from 2020 to present, including supporting documentation. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide financial support without a written contract and repayment schedule. Any unauthorized use of my identity will be reported. Then I paused. Because reported was vague, I needed something that would cut through her performative outrage. I needed witnesses. I called Elliot again. "Can you get me the DocuSign certificate with the full audit trail?" "Yes," he said. "I requested it. It should arrive within a few days." "Good," I said. Then I called Ava and emailed her the receipts, like promised. I didn't send them to Grace. Not yet. Grace still lived inside Scarlett's story. If I wanted him to step out, it would take something undeniable. Something small. A detail no one could spin, a timestamp, a location, a log, justice through receipts. That night, I lay in bed staring at my ceiling, listening to my phone buzz every time another family member texted. "Aunt Lila, your mother is heartbroken. Don't do this at the wedding. Scarlett, I hope you can live with yourself." I didn't respond. I didn't defend. I didn't plead. I just kept building my file. And right before I fell asleep, Elliot emailed me one sentence. "The DocuSign certificate just came through, and it includes the device ID." My eyes snapped open. Because a device ID wasn't just a clue, it was a fingerprint. And fingerprints don't care how charming your mother is. The DocuSign certificate was a PDF that looked boring if you didn't know what you were looking at. But I knew. It listed timestamps down to the second, IP addresses, device types, email headers, authentication methods, and the device ID, the digital equivalent of a fingerprint, was right there. Elliot highlighted it for me like he understood what this meant. I compared it to something I still had buried in my old email archives, a Find My iPhone. Support email Scarlett once forwarded me years ago when she couldn't remember her Apple password. The email had included her device identifier. I didn't expect it to match, but when I pulled it up and compared the strings, my stomach dropped. It matched. Scarlett's phone signed my name, not someone. Not a mistake, not paperwork. Scarlett. I sat back in my chair, my lungs forgetting how to work for a second. Twist number 3. One tiny detail collapsing every lie instantly. A device ID. A small line of code that turned a lifetime of gaslighting into something measurable. I forwarded the certificate to myself, to Elliot, and to a secure cloud folder. Then I did something my family would never believe about me. I called a lawyer. Not a flashy one, a practical one with a clean website and a receptionist who didn't sound impressed by drama. I explained, briefly, what had happened. The lawyer listened and said, "You need to file a police report for identity theft, even if you don't want charges today. Paper trails matter. Paper trails matter. Receipts. Justice." I filed the report. Then I called my HR department at work, not because my family could reach them yet, but because I refused to be caught off guard. I also did something else, something I hadn't told anyone, not even Elliot. Twist number 1, tucked under my ribs like a secret I'd carried for years. When my grandmother died, my dad's mother, the only adult who ever looked at me like I was real, she left me a small trust. Not millions, not movie-level wealth. Just enough. Enough for a down payment. Enough for a safety net. Enough that I never had to ask Scarlett for anything again. Scarlett never knew. My grandmother had made sure of it. "You don't owe that woman your future," Grandma Ruth had whispered to me in hospice, her hand papery but strong. "Promise me you won't hand it back." I'd promised, and kept it hidden because I knew the moment Scarlett learned I had money, she'd feel entitled to it. Now, for the first time, I considered using that trust, not to bail them out, but to buy my freedom. Because if Scarlett had leveraged my name against the house, she could drag me into her financial collapse unless I acted. I met with my lawyer 2 days later. We reviewed documents. We created a plan. Dispute the fraudulent transfer, notify the county, notify Suncrest Holdings, and formally warn vendors. Step by step. Not dramatic, not loud, just unavoidable. That same day, Grace posted a wedding update online, a smiling video of him and Ava touring Desert Palms, calling it the place where our family celebrates everything. The comments were full of hearts and congratulations. I watched it 3 times. Then I opened my calendar and marked the wedding date in red. If Scarlett wanted a stage, she was going to get one. But she wasn't going to control the script anymore. And when my phone buzzed that evening with a new message from Scarlett, "We're meeting with the whole family this Sunday. Don't you dare skip." I smiled without humor, because this time I wasn't walking in empty-handed. This time, I was walking in with a device ID. Sunday's whole family meeting was at Aunt Lila's house, which meant Scarlett didn't have home field advantage. It also meant there were more witnesses. Cousins, uncles, people who only half knew me, but still had opinions about my responsibility. When I walked in, conversations softened, eyes tracked me. That old feeling returned, the one where I took up space but not importance. Scarlett stood near the kitchen island like a politician, one hand on Grace's arm. Grace looked tired. Ava wasn't there. Scarlett smiled too wide. "There she is." I said hello to Aunt Lila, kissed her cheek, and ignored Scarlett's open arms like they were a trap. We sat in a loose circle. Someone handed out plates of cookies like sugar could soften fraud. Scarlett started immediately. "Amelia has been under a lot of stress," she announced, voice syrupy, "and she's misunderstanding some paperwork." I watched faces nod along. People wanted the simplest story. Scarlett continued, "We're here because Amelia has been threatening, and we don't want her to regret what she says and does." Threatening. That word, chosen carefully. I lifted my chin. "I'm not misunderstanding paperwork," I said. "I'm reading it." Scarlett's smile twitched. "Sweetie," I held up my hand. "Before we do this, I want to make something clear. I am recording this conversation for my own documentation." Gasps. A few murmurs. Scarlett's eyes went sharp. "You can't do that," she snapped. "In Arizona, I can," I said, calm. "One-party consent." Grace blinked like he'd never realized the rules could favor someone other than Scarlett. Aunt Lila looked nervous. "Amelia, I'm not doing this to hurt anyone," I said. "I'm doing it because the truth has to survive after this room." Scarlett's voice dropped into that dangerous quiet. "You think you're so smart." I almost smiled. "I am smart. You just never liked that because it didn't make you money." Scarlett inhaled sharply, then forced a laugh. "See, this is what I mean. She's cruel." I pulled a printed copy of the DocuSign certificate from my bag. I passed it to the nearest uncle. "Please read the highlighted line," I said. He squinted. "Device ID?" I nodded. "That device ID matches Scarlett's phone. The signature wasn't mine. The login wasn't mine. The location wasn't mine." Silence cracked through the room. Scarlett's eyes flickered, just like before. Grace leaned forward. "Mom," he said slowly, "is that true?" Scarlett's face tightened. "I don't know what that is." "It's a DocuSign certificate," I said. "It's generated automatically. It's not my document. It's theirs." Scarlett threw her hands up. "So now you're accusing me of identity theft? In front of family? You've lost it." I kept my voice steady. "I filed a police report." The room jolted like I'd dropped a glass. Grace's mouth opened. "You, what?" "I filed a report," I repeated. "Because my identity was used." Scarlett's eyes flashed. "How dare you, after everything I've done for you?" Aunt Lila whispered. "Scarlett?" Scarlett turned to her, voice rising. No, I'm not letting her rewrite history. I fed her, I clothed her, I gave her a home. I nodded once, slow, and I repaid you. Here." I pulled out my spreadsheet, printed, bound, tabbed. I slid it onto the coffee table. Every payment I've made, I said, itemized with receipts, dates, amounts, screenshots. People leaned in, unable to help themselves. Scarlett's breathing quickened. "You're disgusting." I looked at her, and for the first time, the word didn't land. It bounced off. "I'm accurate," I said. Grace flipped through pages, his face draining as he saw the totals. "Amelia," he whispered, like he'd never imagined the invisible one could keep track. Scarlett lunged forward to grab the binder, but Aunt Lila put a hand on it first. "Scarlett," Aunt Lila said, voice trembling, "why is Amelia paying your bills?" Scarlett's eyes darted, and I realized Scarlett had always relied on the fact that no one asked questions. She could charm, she could cry, she could blame, but she couldn't outtalk a binder full of receipts. Grace stared at Scarlett like she was a stranger. "Mom," he said, voice tight, "what did you do?" Scarlett's smile collapsed into something ugly. "I did what I had to do." And in that moment, I knew she was about to confess or pivot into an even bigger lie. Scarlett pivoted. "I did what I had to do," she repeated, voice swelling with dramatic righteousness, "because nobody else steps up, because I'm the only one holding this family together." Grace's hands clenched around the binder. "By stealing from Amelia?" Scarlett's eyes flashed. "I didn't steal. She owed. She left. She abandoned us. She went off and built her little life while I cleaned up everyone's mess." A laugh escaped me, small, disbelieving. "You mean while I paid for everyone's mess?" Scarlett pointed at me like I was on trial. "You always want to be the victim." "No," I said, and my voice shook just enough to be human. "I want to stop being the solution." Aunt Lila looked like she might cry. "Scarlett, why didn't you tell us you needed help?" Scarlett's expression softened instantly, tears summoned on cue. "Because it's humiliating, Lila, and Amelia knows that. She knows how hard it is to be a single mom." I blinked. Scarlett hadn't been a single mom in years. She had partners, she had help, she had family. But she loved that role because it made her unquestionable. Grace looked torn, his whole identity built around being her miracle. I watched him and I felt something bittersweet. I didn't want to destroy him, I wanted him to see. Aunt Lila turned to me, pleading, "Amelia, honey, what do you want?" There it was, the question that always came with strings. I took a slow breath. "I want boundaries," I said, "and accountability." Scarlett scoffed through her tears. "Listen to her, like we're coworkers. We should be," I said quietly, "because the way you've treated me isn't family, it's financial dependence with emotional manipulation." The room went still. Grace's voice cracked. "Is the wedding paid for?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth was in the binder. Scarlett snapped. "Grace, don't worry about that. We'll handle it." Grace looked at me. "Amelia, please, just tell me, because Ava, the woman who'd asked me to protect Grace." I swallowed. "Some vendors think I'm paying. I'm not. I've removed my name." Grace's face went pale. "So it's going to fall apart." "It doesn't have to," I said. Scarlett spun toward me. "Oh my God, you're blackmailing us." "I'm offering terms," I said steady. "Terms," Scarlett mocked. "Who do you think you are?" I held her gaze. "Someone with receipts." Aunt Lila whispered, "Amelia, what terms?" This was the soft revenge, firm, specific, nonviolent. I opened my notebook and read them aloud, each one plain. 1, admit the truth in writing to the entire extended family. What you did, what you used my name for, no euphemisms. Scarlett's face tightened. 2, repay what you exploited, not emotionally, financially. Per the itemized record, we can set a schedule. Grace stared at the pages, swallowing hard. 3, I said, voice steady, give a public apology in the exact place you humiliated me. Desert Palms, in that ballroom, in front of the same kind of audience you used to make me small. Scarlett's eyes went wide with fury. "Absolutely not," Grace whispered. "Mom," Scarlett snapped. "No, I will not be shamed." "You already are," I said quietly. "The only question is whether you take responsibility." Scarlett's tears vanished like someone flipped a switch. "You're doing this to punish me." "I'm doing this to free myself," I said. Grace's voice trembled. "And if we don't?" I looked at him, and my heart hurt in a way that felt like growing up. "Then I let the truth go where it naturally goes," I said. "To the county, to the lenders, to the vendors, to whoever needs it." Scarlett's mouth twisted. "You wouldn't." I reached into my bag and pulled out one more document, a draft email addressed to Suncrest Holdings with attachments already loaded. My finger hovered over send. "I can," I said. Scarlett lunged up from her chair. You evil. Aunt Lila stepped between us, hands up. Stop, both of you. Grace looked like he might throw up. And then my phone buzzed. An incoming call from Desert Palms Country Club. I stared at the screen, because whatever they were calling about, I knew it wasn't good. And I answered because I was done being surprised. Scarlett pivoted. I did what I had to do, she repeated, voice swelling with dramatic righteousness, because nobody else steps up, because I'm the only one holding this family together. Grace's hands clenched around the binder. By stealing from Amelia? Scarlett's eyes flashed. I didn't steal. She owed. She left. She abandoned us. She went off and built her little life while I cleaned up everyone's mess. A laugh escaped me. Small, disbelieving. You mean while I paid for everyone's mess? Scarlett pointed at me like I was on trial. You always want to be the victim. No, I said, and my voice shook just enough to be human. I want to stop being the solution. Aunt Lila looked like she might cry. Scarlett, why didn't you tell us you needed help? Scarlett's expression softened instantly, tears summoned on cue. Because it's humiliating, Lila, and Amelia knows that. She knows how hard it is to be a single mom. I blinked. Scarlett hadn't been a single mom in years. She had partners, she had help, she had family. But she loved that role because it made her unquestionable. Grace looked torn, his whole identity built around being her miracle. I watched him and I felt something bittersweet. I didn't want to destroy him. I wanted him to see. Aunt Lila turned to me, pleading, Amelia, honey, what do you want? There it was, the question that always came with strings. I took a slow breath. I want boundaries, I said, and accountability. Scarlett scoffed through her tears. Listen to her, like we're co-workers. We should be, I said quietly, because the way you've treated me isn't family. It's financial dependence with emotional manipulation. The room went still. Grace's voice cracked. Is the wedding paid for? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth was in the binder. Scarlett snapped. Grace, don't worry about that. We'll handle it. Grace looked at me. Amelia, please, just tell me, because Ava, the woman who'd asked me to protect Grace, I swallowed. Some vendors think I'm paying. I'm not. I've removed my name. Grace's face went pale. So it's gonna fall apart. It doesn't have to, I said. Scarlett spun toward me. Oh my God, you're blackmailing us. I'm offering terms, I said, steady. Terms, Scarlett mocked. Who do you think you are? I held her gaze. Someone with receipts. Aunt Lila whispered, Amelia, what terms? This was the soft revenge, firm, specific, nonviolent. I opened my notebook and read them aloud, each one plain. 1. Admit the truth in writing to the entire extended family. What you did, what you used my name for. No euphemisms. Scarlett's face tightened. 2. Repay what you exploited. Not emotionally, financially. Per the itemized record, we can set a schedule. Grace stared at the pages, swallowing hard. 3, I said, voice steady. Give a public apology in the exact place you humiliated me. Desert Palms, in that ballroom, in front of the same kind of audience you used to make me small. Scarlett's eyes went wide with fury. Absolutely not. Grace whispered, Mom? Scarlett snapped, No, I will not be shamed. You already are, I said quietly. The only question is whether you take responsibility. Scarlett's tears vanished like someone flipped a switch. You're doing this to punish me. I'm doing this to free myself, I said. Grace's voice trembled. And if we don't? I looked at him, and my heart hurt in a way that felt like growing up. Then I let the truth go where it naturally goes, I said. To the county, to the lenders, to the vendors, to whoever needs it. Scarlett's mouth twisted. You wouldn't. I reached into my bag and pulled out one more document. A draft email addressed to Suncrest Holdings with attachments already loaded. My finger hovered over send. I can, I said. Scarlett lunged up from her chair. You evil. Aunt Lila stepped between us, hands up. Stop, both of you. Grace looked like he might throw up. And then my phone buzzed, an incoming call from Desert Palms Country Club. I stared at the screen, because whatever they were calling about, I knew it wasn't good. And I answered because I was done being surprised. Miss Johnson? A crisp voice said. This is Rebecca from Desert Palms Country Club. I'm calling regarding the wedding event scheduled for... Yes, I said, glancing at Scarlett, Grace, and the circle of suddenly silent relatives. I'm aware. There's been an issue with payment authorization, Rebecca continued. We attempted to process the remaining balance using the card on file, and it was declined. We also need confirmation of the billing party, as we've received conflicting information. My pulse beat hard. Scarlett's eyes locked onto me, bright with panic and anger. I'm not the billing party, I said clearly. My name was used without my authorization. I need you to remove me immediately. A sharp inhale came from Scarlett. Grace muttered, "Oh my God." Rebecca paused, voice cooling into policy. Understood. In that case, we will require the correct billing party to contact us within 24 hours to avoid cancellation. Thank you, I said. Please email me a written record of this call. Scarlett flinched at the word record. Rebecca agreed and hung up. The room was silent except for Scarlett's breathing, fast, shallow. Grace looked at her, his voice hoarse. Mom, did you put Amelia's card on file? Scarlett's face contorted. I did what I had to do. Grace stepped back like she'd slapped him. That's not an answer. Scarlett's eyes swung to me, venomous. You're going to ruin your brother's wedding. I tilted my head. No, Scarlett, you built a wedding on a lie. Lies collapse. Aunt Lila looked like she might faint. Scarlett, sweetheart, why didn't you ask us? Scarlett snapped. Because you judge, everyone judges. Amelia is the only one who has money and never helps unless she's forced. I felt something in me tighten, not anger, but that old ache, the way she could take my quietness and call it cruelty. I took a slow breath and let it out. I have helped, I said, and my voice cracked slightly. I've been helping for years. You just never called it help because you didn't call me. Grace's eyes filled with tears he fought hard to hide. Why didn't you tell me? Because you never asked, I thought. Instead, I said, because every time I tried, you laughed. Scarlett pointed at me, trembling. You want to humiliate me at Desert Palms? Fine, you've already done it. I held her gaze. No, not yet. Scarlett's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It meant I wasn't going to explode in a family living room. I was going to let the truth exist where Scarlett valued it most, publicly. Grace's phone buzzed. He glanced down, face tightening. Ava's calling. Scarlett's head snapped toward him. Don't answer. Grace stared at her, then looked at me, torn. He answered anyway. Ava? His face shifted as he listened, confusion turning to alarm. What do you mean the florist hasn't been paid? He asked. Scarlett's eyes widened. Grace's voice rose. No, Ava, we're handling it. He paced, running a hand through his hair. What do you mean they're canceling if they don't get confirmation tonight? Scarlett's breathing turned frantic. Grace hung up and looked at Scarlett like she'd betrayed him on live television. Mom, he said, voice shaking, everything is falling apart. Scarlett turned to me with a desperation that looked almost like hatred. Fix it, she demanded. You fix it right now. I stared at her, this woman who had treated me like a wallet with legs, and something inside me went quiet. No, I said softly, you fix it. Scarlett's eyes went wild. Then you're dead to me. The words hit the room like a slap. Grace flinched, Aunt Lila gasped, and I realized Scarlett thought that threat still had power. I stood, picked up my tote bag, and looked her in the eye. If I'm dead to you, I said, stop using my name like it's still alive. Then I walked out while the room was still in shock. In my car, my hands trembling on the steering wheel, I got a text from Elliot. I have one more thing. Security footage exists from the notary office. It shows who signed. My heart slammed against my ribs, because if there was footage, then Scarlett wasn't just exposed, she was caught. Elliot met me outside a small notary office in a strip mall that smelled like dry heat and cheap incense. The sign above the door read, Quick Seal Notary and Tax. Every time I drove past places like this, I'd assumed they dealt with harmless paperwork. People getting forms stamped, drivers getting documents notarized, small moments of bureaucracy. Now I understood. These places were where lies became official. Inside, a tired woman led us to a back office. We don't give footage to random people, she said. I'm not random, I replied, and handed her my police report number. My identity was used in your office. I'm requesting evidence. Her mouth tightened. We already told your mother we don't have anything. Of course, Scarlett had come here. Elliot leaned forward slightly. If your office notarized a fraudulent signature, you could be liable. We just need to confirm what occurred. The woman swallowed, then opened a drawer and pulled out a logbook. She traced a finger down the list and stopped. There, she said, tapping, Amelia Johnson. My name written in someone else's hand. Then she sighed. We have a still image, she said quietly, from the camera. It auto-saves when a notary stamp is used. My pulse pounded as she pulled up a grainy still photo. Scarlett, not a blur, not a shadow. Scarlett in her favorite denim jacket leaning over the counter with a pen in her hand. My breath left my body like someone punched it out. Elliot whispered, "Oh my God." The manager stared at the screen, then at me. "That's not you." "No," I said, voice shaking. "That's my mother." As she printed the still image and signed a statement, I stood frozen, staring at Scarlett's face in the act of stealing my identity. Proof, receipts, justice. Outside, my phone buzzed with a new message, this time from Grace. "Please don't. She's still my mom." I stared at the words until my eyes burned. Then I typed back, "Then tell her to stop being my thief." And as I hit send, another notification popped up, an email from Scarlett titled, "Final Warning." My stomach clenched, because Scarlett didn't warn unless she was about to strike. Scarlett's final warning email was 3 paragraphs of pure performance. She wrote like she was auditioning for sympathy. "Family doesn't do this to family," she said. "Fix it." No mention of the forged signatures, no mention of the still image, no apology, no accountability. Just the familiar spin. Amelia is the problem. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, then I printed it and put it in my folder. Receipts aren't just about money, they're about narratives. That night, I dug through an old post and found a video from the Desert Palms dinner 10 years ago. In the video, I stood in front of the ballroom, holding a microphone with shaking hands while Scarlett sat at the head table smiling like a queen. Someone in the background shouted, "Louder, Amelia, we can't hear the ATM." Laughter erupted. I watched it once, then twice, then I saved it. Because Scarlett had demanded I apologize publicly for being cold. Maybe it was time she apologized publicly for being cruel. Ava called me the next day, voice tight. "Scarlett is telling vendors you're unstable," she said. "She told the photographer you're trying to sabotage us because you're alone and bitter." I exhaled slowly. "Do you believe her?" Ava hesitated. "I don't know what to believe." "I'm sending you something," I said. I forwarded Ava the still image from the notary office, the DocuSign certificate, and my police report confirmation. Ava went silent. Then she whispered, "Oh my God. I'm not asking you to choose me," I said softly. "I'm asking you to choose reality." A long pause. Then Ava said, "What happens at the wedding?" "I'm not getting on a microphone to scream," I said. "I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to ruin your day." Ava let out a breath. "But," I continued, "if Scarlett tries to steal the spotlight by humiliating me or by lying publicly, I will respond with documentation." Ava whispered, "She's planning something." "She wants to do a family speech," Ava said. "She told the planner she wants Grace to thank her, and to thank you for stepping up financially because Amelia finally realized what family means." My throat burned. "She's going to make me clap for being used," I whispered. I printed my terms again and tucked them into my folder. Then an email arrived from Grace. "Please meet me alone." My heart tightened, because meeting him alone could change everything, or it could be another setup. And I didn't know which was worse. Grace asked to meet at a park near our old neighborhood. When I arrived, he was sitting on a bench, staring at his hands like he didn't trust them. He looked smaller than he did online, less polished, less invincible. "I didn't know," he said. "I know," I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. He flinched. "You do?" "I know you didn't know everything," I said, "but you didn't ask questions." Grace's eyes filled. "Mom said you didn't want to be involved. She said you hated us." "Did you ever ask me if that was true?" I asked. He looked down. "No." "Ava showed me what you sent," he said. "The photo, the device thing." "I don't understand how my mom could, because she thinks she's entitled," I said softly, "to my name, to my money, to my silence." Grace's voice cracked. "Ava wants to postpone. Because of this?" "Yes," he whispered, "and I don't want to postpone, but I also don't want to marry with this hanging over us." "Then you deal with it," I said. Grace's eyes pleaded. "Can you just talk to Mom, like as her daughter?" I felt the old instinct rise, fix it, smooth it, carry it. Then I looked at my brother's face and realized he wasn't asking for my voice. He was asking for my sacrifice. "No," I said. "I'll talk to her with a lawyer," I added, "or with witnesses, or at Desert Palms, where she planned to talk about me publicly." Grace swallowed. "She's planning that speech." "I know," I said. Then he showed me a message draft. "I'm sorry I didn't see you." My throat tightened, but before I could respond, Grace's phone buzzed, Scarlett calling. His face went white. He answered, Put it on speaker. Scarlett's voice came through, sharp and sweet. Grace, baby, where are you? Grace swallowed. With Amelia. A beat. Then Scarlett laughed softly. Oh, good. Put her on. Grace's eyes flicked to me, panicked, and Scarlett's voice turned velvet smooth. Amelia, she purred, I just want to talk. Like family. I stared at the phone, heart pounding, because I knew talk like family meant fold like always, and I wasn't sure how Grace would react if I didn't. I leaned toward the phone. I'm listening. Scarlett sighed dramatically. Thank God, I've been sick with worry. I haven't slept. Then her tone sharpened into purpose. People talk, Amelia. There it was. The real fear. Not the fraud. The gossip. People will talk when they find out you forged my identity, I said evenly. Scarlett snapped. Allegedly. Grace flinched. Grace asked, voice cracking, Mom, did you sign her name? Scarlett laughed. Sweetheart, of course not. That's insane. The lie was so smooth, Grace whispered, but there's a photo. Scarlett's laugh died. What photo? From the notary office, I said. You, holding a pen, Scarlett hissed. You are crossing a line. No, I said. You crossed it when you took my name. Scarlett's tone turned cold. If you bring that to the wedding, I will have you removed. Then she threatened history, threatened shame, threatened anything that might make me shrink. Finally, she said softly, with poison wrapped in sugar, Tell Elliot Park hello for me. My blood ran cold. Grace blinked. Who's Elliot? Scarlett hung up. Grace looked at me, panicked. Amelia, who is Elliot? And why does Mom know him? I swallowed, heart pounding, because if Scarlett had discovered Elliot, then she might be planning something bigger than a speech, something that could ruin not just the wedding, but my entire case. And for the first time since this started, I felt genuinely afraid. I called Elliot immediately. She knows your name, I said. Elliot exhaled tight. Okay, that means she's digging. He warned me she might try to discredit him, claim bias, invent a scandal. I believed it. Scarlett's creativity grew sharper when she was cornered. Then Elliot said, We need to control the sequence. The sequence, I echoed, my investigator brain clicking in. If Scarlett goes first, she frames the narrative, he said. But if a neutral professional presents documentation at the exact right moment, it becomes inevitable. I pictured it like chess. We made a plan. Desert Palms management would hold the documentation, and if Scarlett tried to publicly rewrite the story, the venue, neutral, policy-driven, would step in. That night I watched the old humiliation video again, paused it on Scarlett's satisfied smile, and whispered, Same place, different ending. Ava texted, She's insisting on the speech. She said she'll honor you publicly. I typed back, Then we make sure her honor comes with receipts. The day of the wedding arrived like a storm disguised as sunlight. Desert Palms looked the same as it had 10 years ago. Polished floors, quiet staff, everything built to make certain people feel untouchable. I wore a simple navy dress and low heels, no sparkle, no begging for attention. Grace saw me and sagged with relief. You came, he whispered. I said I would, I replied. Then Scarlett appeared, radiant and weaponized. Amelia, she said brightly, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. You made it. Scarlett, I said calmly. She leaned in, low and sweet. No folder? I smiled slightly. No folder. She didn't know the folder was already with Desert Palms management, sealed, documented, ready. The ceremony happened. Grace and Ava said vows with hands that trembled just a little. I wanted them to have something clean. Then the reception began. Right before dinner, Scarlett tapped her glass and took the microphone. She warmed up the room with family language, then aimed the spotlight straight at me. And I want to thank someone who finally stepped up, she said, smiling. Amelia, my daughter, the one who's been so generous in helping us make today possible. Murmurs rippled. Heads turned. Ava's face tightened. Grace's eyes widened in panic. I stood up, not dramatic, just standing. I didn't pay for this wedding, I said, voice clear, and I didn't authorize anyone to use my name. The room went still. Scarlett laughed into the microphone. Oh, sweetie, don't do this right now. And that's when Rebecca, the Desert Palms coordinator, stepped forward, clipboard in hand, face firm. Miss Garcia, Rebecca said calmly, we need to address a billing and identity issue immediately. Scarlett's face froze. Rebecca continued, our records show that Amelia Johnson was listed as the billing party without her consent. We have documentation of unauthorized use of identity in connection with this event. A collective gasp swept through the room, and Scarlett's narrative began to crack. Publicly, irreversibly, right on the stage she'd chosen. Scarlett tried emotion. Rebecca stayed policy. We have an audit certificate, a notary still image, and a police report reference, Rebecca said, calm as gravity. Grace's voice shook. Mom, was it your phone? Scarlett stammered, tried to deny, tried to pivot. Then Elliot stepped forward, steady. I pulled the public records because Scarlett's internal documentation didn't match her claims. Second mortgage, county receipts, vendor emails, each piece landing like a brick. Desert Palms paused service pending verified billing. Liability, policies, terms. Scarlett couldn't cry away. Grace looked at Scarlett like she'd betrayed him on live television. You were going to make Amelia pay in front of everyone. I was going to thank her, Scarlett whispered. That's not thanks, Grace said, voice breaking. That's using her. Scarlett dropped the microphone. It hit the floor with a dull thud that sounded like an ending. She walked out of the ballroom, Bastille head high like she was leaving by choice. The room stood stunned. Then my phone buzzed with a new message. You think you won? Check your email. My stomach dropped, because Scarlett might have left the room, but she wasn't done fighting. Scarlett's email wasn't a confession. It was a new fake statement, supposedly written by me, claiming I voluntarily loaned money, authorized transfers, agreed to be billing contact. Another forged signature, in real time. I forwarded it to my lawyer and Elliot, then replied with one sentence. Creating fraudulent documents after a police report has been filed will be included in the case. Back in the ballroom, Grace and Ava stood with her parents, faces strained. Phones were out, whispers were everywhere. What happens now? Grace asked, voice shredded. Now we stop pretending this is normal, I said. I handed Grace my terms, plain, firm. 1. Admit the truth in writing to the entire extended family. 2. Repay what they exploited per the itemized record. 3. Public apology at Desert Palms in the exact place she humiliated me. Grace stared, terrified. Ava whispered, Scarlett told the DJ to announce you're unwell, and the family is asking for prayers. My chest tightened with cold anger. Scarlett's favorite weapon wasn't money, it was humiliation, and she was still trying to use it, right here, right now, on the stage she loved. Ava stopped the DJ herself. Outside by the fountain, Scarlett cried loudly into her phone until she saw us. Then the tears vanished. You did this, she hissed at me. Grace stepped between us, voice shaking. Mom, tell me the truth. Did you sign Amelia's name? Scarlett attacked instead. Amelia's unstable. She's always been jealous. Grace's hands clenched. Stop talking about her. Aunt Lila's voice broke. Scarlett, why couldn't you just ask for help? Why did you steal from your daughter? Scarlett cracked for a second. I was trying to keep us afloat. By drowning Amelia, Grace whispered. Then Scarlett looked at me, shame flickering. What do you want? She asked, brittle. I stated my terms again, calm and clear. Scarlett choked on the last one. Public apology? You want to humiliate me. I want you to repair what you broke in the exact place you broke it, I said. Grace whispered, Mom, please. Scarlett nodded once, tiny and sharp. Fine. And I didn't believe her for a second, because Scarlett agreed to things all the time. The question was whether she would follow through. My lawyer arranged mediation. Scarlett arrived in a tailored blazer, posture sharp. Her attorney smiled politely, like consequences were a negotiation tactic. They tried misunderstanding until my lawyer slid the notary still image across the table, then the DocuSign certificate, then the bank alerts, then vendor emails with doctored proof of payment. Receipts stacked until the air felt heavy. Scarlett's attorney cleared his throat. We're prepared to discuss repayment. Scarlett hissed. Repayment? My lawyer stayed neutral. Per the itemized record. Scarlett glared at me. You kept track. I did, I said quietly. Scarlett agreed to a repayment schedule. She agreed, begrudgingly, to a written admission, but she refused the public apology. I will not humiliate myself, she said. My lawyer's eyes stayed steady. Public harm requires public repair. Scarlett leaned back, cold and sweet. Then take me to court. She thought she'd called my bluff. I wasn't bluffing. I said softly, okay. Scarlett blinked, surprised. Then, as we stood to leave, Elliot texted me. Heads up, Scarlett is contacting your employer. My stomach dropped. Because Scarlett wasn't done. She was changing targets. I warned my HR director. I documented everything. Scarlett left me a voicemail, syrupy, wounded, then sharp. I hope your job is worth losing your family. Then, your little HR friend, he's going to regret getting involved. I sent it to my lawyer. Another receipt. Scarlett tried rumors next, texts from distant relatives asking if Elliot was my boyfriend, if I was in trouble, if I was taking the house. I responded the same way every time. I have documentation. If you want facts, I can share them. If you want rumors, talk to Scarlett. Grace came to my apartment with groceries and an apology that finally sounded like accountability. I watched that old Desert Palms video, he said, eyes wet. I laughed back then. I'm sorry. I accept your apology, I said quietly. But accepting doesn't erase, it just starts. Then another email arrived from Scarlett's attorney. Repayment, written admission, and a private family apology at Scarlett's home. Of course, she wanted control of the room. I replied with one line, public apology at Desert Palms, same ballroom, same level of public exposure. Otherwise, proceed. I hit send and felt my heart pound. Scarlett was cornered, and cornered people either surrender or they bite. Scarlett bit with rumors louder than ever. My lawyer filed a civil claim to challenge the fraudulent transfer of ownership. The county flagged the deed. Suncrest Holdings opened an investigation. Systems moved. Scarlett hated systems because she couldn't charm her way through them. Grace called, exhausted. She's saying you're trying to make her homeless. I'm trying to make her accountable, I replied. A week later, my lawyer called. Scarlett's counsel is suddenly willing to consider the public apology. Pressure from systems, liability, fear. We scheduled it at Desert Palms. The night before, Elliot texted, FYI. FYI, Scarlett requested the venue audio system and asked for a microphone. She's planning something. My stomach dropped, because Scarlett planning something in that ballroom was never good, and I knew she might try one last spotlight steal, one last humiliation. Desert Palms was quiet, no wedding music, just air conditioning and echoes. Family gathered. Ava sat beside Grace, posture rigid. Rebecca stood in back, clipboard ready. Scarlett arrived late in a black dress like she was attending her own funeral. She took the microphone. I know there's been confusion, she began. Rebecca cleared her throat. Ms. Garcia, for the record, this meeting is to address unauthorized use of identity and fraudulent signatures. Please state clearly what occurred. Scarlett's face tightened. I used Amelia Johnson's identity without her permission, Scarlett said, clipped. I signed documents in her name. I listed her as billing contact. A hush. Then Scarlett tried to pivot. But I did it because I had to. Rebecca kept writing. No comfort, no applause. Scarlett swallowed and said, quieter, it was wrong. She faced me, eyes blazing with humiliation. I'm sorry, she said like it hurt her tongue. I stood. Say my secrets, I told her calmly when she tried to threaten me with them. If they're true, I'll own them. If they're lies, I'll add them to the file. Scarlett hesitated. She hadn't expected me to call her bluff. Finally, through clenched teeth, she said the last truth. I humiliated you here before, she admitted, and I'm sorry. Then she dropped the microphone and left. Words she couldn't take back, spoken where she'd once made me small. And as the door swung shut, my phone buzzed with an email from Suncrest Holdings. Investigation findings, immediate action required. My stomach dropped because the system was still moving, and it was about to demand more than words. Suncrest's email warned of possible acceleration of the loan and demanded clarification. If they accelerated, Scarlett could lose the house fast. My lawyer stayed calm. We respond with documentation and your non-involvement. Grace called, frantic. Mom says if you just help one more time, she can refinance. One more time. Always one more time. I am not paying to clean up fraud committed against me, I said, voice gentle but firm. Suncrest called me. I routed them to my lawyer and sent a packet. DocuSign certificate, notary still image, police report number, Desert Palms documentation. Suncrest replied, thank you. We will be pursuing remedies against the borrower and adjusting our records accordingly. Relief loosened my chest until the next line. Please note, a separate account was used to make 2 mortgage payments under your name. 2 payments. Not mine. My mind flashed to the one thing Scarlett didn't know existed until maybe she did. My hidden trust, my grandmother's last gift, and suddenly I felt cold all the way through. The trust administrator confirmed it. 2 disbursements requested online, authenticated through the old email on file. The email Scarlett still had access to. She hadn't just used me as an ATM. She'd reached into the one safe place I kept hidden. I froze the account and filed a fraud review. Then a text from Scarlett arrived. You see what happens when you play games? She knew. I screenshotted it and sent it to my lawyer. Then I replied with one sentence, "Thank you for confirming." Don't be smart. My hands stopped shaking. This wasn't just about money. It was about control. And Scarlett would never stop until she couldn't reach me anymore. Grace called, voice tight. "Mom told me you have a trust." "She stole from it," I said. Silence. Then Grace whispered, horrified, "She what?" A beat later, he said, voice breaking into something like adulthood, "I'm done. I'm done protecting her," he repeated. "I'm done letting her use you." Then he added, small and scared, "But Mom is threatening to disappear. She says she'll leave town and we'll never see her again." Scarlett, cornered, was pulling the ultimate manipulation, vanish, so everyone would chase. And right then, on instinct, I drove past Juniper Lane, because I knew where she'd stage her exit if she wanted an audience. I parked across from the old house and watched the sunset paint the stucco walls orange. Then a car pulled into the driveway. Scarlett stepped out carrying a suitcase. Not frantic, not lost, deliberate. She scanned the street and locked eyes with my car. Even from this distance, I saw her smile, small, satisfied, like she'd been waiting for me. She rolled the suitcase toward my car and leaned into my window, perfume and power. "You followed me," she said, voice sweet. "I drove by my childhood home," I said. "You're making a show." Scarlett's smile thinned. "You think you won?" "I think you committed fraud," I replied calmly. "And I think you're heartless," she said. "You stole from my trust," I said. Her smile widened. "Ah, so you do have one." "You admitted it," I said. "Logs, texts, authentication trail, receipts." She leaned closer, eyes glittering. "You always wanted me to see you, now I do." Then she pressed the old wound. "You're still alone. If being alone means not being exploited, I'll take it," I said. Scarlett laughed softly. "Truth doesn't matter in family. Loyalty does." I stared at her and realized that was her religion. Then she tapped the roof of my car lightly like she owned it. "I'm leaving," she announced. "You'll tell everyone I ran because of you." "I'll tell everyone you left because consequences arrived," I said. Her face twisted. "You really are your father." I flinched, then steadied. "My father left to survive you. I understand him now." Scarlett's eyes flashed. She turned to go, then paused, casual and cruel. "Oh," she said, "those trust payments? I didn't even need them. I just wanted to see if I could." My blood went cold. She wheeled her suitcase back toward the house like she dropped a mic. Then she added, without looking back, "And don't worry, your boss will hear my version before they hear yours." My stomach dropped, because she wasn't just leaving town. She was trying to burn my life on her way out. I didn't chase her. I sat in my car and let my hands tremble on the steering wheel until the shaking passed. That was the new boundary, not running after her emotions. Instead, I opened my phone and did what I'd trained myself to do in every investigation. I documented. I recorded the time. I noted her exact words. I screenshotted my call log showing she'd texted right before I arrived, proof she'd staged this. Then I called my lawyer, voice steady. "She admitted she took from the trust," I said, "and she threatened my job." My lawyer's voice sharpened. "We'll file a supplemental report and request a protective order." A protective order, a line in the sand the court could enforce. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Grace called an hour later, voice frantic. "She's gone. The house is empty. She left a note." "What does it say?" I asked. Grace swallowed. "It says we're ungrateful, that you turned everyone against her, that she's starting over." I exhaled slowly. "Are you safe?" Grace's breath hitched. "I think so. Ava's with me." "Good," I said. "If she contacts you and you worry about her safety, call professionals. Not me, not you. Professionals." Grace whispered, "Okay." "Okay." Then, quietly, "I'm writing the admission to the family tonight. No spin. No euphemisms. Just truth." My chest tightened. "Thank you." He hesitated. "I'm going to start paying you back. I know you said I don't have to, but I need to do something that's real." "Then we do it on paper," I said, "with a schedule and with boundaries." Grace exhaled. "Okay." In the weeks that followed, the system kept moving. The county processed my dispute. Suncrest pursued remedies against Scarlett directly. The trust administrator reversed one disbursement and froze everything pending fraud review. My HR department received a complaint from Scarlett, vague, emotional, full of accusations. I responded with facts and documentation. Receipts don't argue, they just exist. Elliot's firm backed him. Scarlett couldn't discredit public records or an audit certificate. Her rumors hit a wall. And slowly, the noise faded. Silence arrived like a new kind of fear. No more late-night texts, no more emergencies, no more demands, just quiet. At first, I kept waiting for the next attack. Then I started noticing small things, how my shoulders sat lower, how my weekends felt longer, about how I could open my banking app without my stomach dropping. I didn't feel healed. I felt unhooked. Grace and Ava went to counseling. Grace stopped posting his life like it was proof he mattered. He started calling me just to ask how my day was. Sometimes we sat in silence on my balcony and watched the sky turn pink, and it felt like something new. Siblingship built from scratch. Still, Scarlett stayed gone. No apology beyond the mandated words. No repair beyond what the system forced. No motherly warmth, because motherly warmth had always been conditional. Then, almost exactly 6 months after the wedding, my mailbox flag was up when I got home from work. One envelope sat inside, thick paper, no return address, and handwriting I recognized instantly, like a ghost in ink. Scarlett. I carried the envelope upstairs like it was heavier than paper. My apartment was quiet, just the hum of the fridge, the faint city sounds through the window. I didn't open it right away. I made tea. I washed a spoon that wasn't dirty. I did anything to delay the moment where I'd let Scarlett back into my life, even through a sheet of paper. Then I sat at my kitchen table and ran my finger along the edge of the envelope. Handwritten, not typed, not emailed, not performative in a group chat. A letter you can't unsend. I opened it carefully. Inside was a single page, folded once, and the ink looked slightly smudged in places, like someone's hand had shaken. Amelia, I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm begging or blaming, so I'll try something I've never been good at. I was wrong. Not confused. Not stressed. Wrong. I used your name because I thought I could. Because I've spent my whole life believing I had to control everything or I would disappear. You know what that feels like, even if you don't want to admit it. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm not asking you for money. I'm writing because I finally understand something that scares me. You can live without me, and I'm the one who can't live with what I did. I'm in a program. I'm talking to someone. I don't know if I can become the mother you deserve, but I'm trying to become a person who doesn't steal from her own child. If you ever want to talk, I will listen. For once, I will listen. Scarlett. I stared at the page until my eyes burned. The letter didn't erase anything, but it was the first time Scarlett had written the word wrong without wrapping it in excuses. I didn't know if it was real remorse or just a new version of control. Soft, handwritten, carefully measured. My phone buzzed on the table, making me flinch. A text from Grace. Did you get it too? I stared at my brother's message, then at the letter in my hands. 2 questions at once. Was Scarlett reaching out to repair, or was she starting a new cycle? I didn't reply yet. I folded the letter back up, placed it on the table, and sat there in the quiet, listening to my own breathing like it was the only truth I could trust. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. At the bottom of the envelope, tucked behind the flap, was a second smaller slip of paper I hadn't seen. It had only one line on it, written in Scarlett's handwriting. Darker, more urgent. I have something of Grandma Ruth's you never knew existed. And suddenly, 6 months of silence felt like the intake of breath before a new storm.